Welcome everybody to my first YouTube video as Cosmic Knots. This is going to be your one-stop shop for everything you want to know about the fiber arts, from sewing to crochet to knitting. In today's video, we're going to do the absolute basics for crochet. A lot of you guys have requested for me to do tutorials over on TikTok, so I thought this was a great place to start so I can do long form videos, be able to explain in greater detail, and get you to the crochet status that you want to be. In today's video, we're going to learn how to hold our hook, make straight edges, make a slip knot, and single crochet. I hope you guys like this video, and let's get into it. So what you're gonna need is a ball of yarn or a skein of yarn. I'm gonna use this little one to practice with you guys, and I hope that you guys can see the color through the video. You're also gonna need a 5mm hook. That's the best hook to get started with. This is the hook that I learned with. So let's get started. We're gonna grab our yarn and find the string that's gonna pull seamlessly. We're gonna set that aside and work with this. Today we're gonna learn the slip knot. So to do that, you're gonna start, this is called the tail end because it is the end of our yarn. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this little pretzel shape, and it's gonna be helpful in our upcoming videos where we actually make a magic ring. So this is a slip knot. You're gonna take your string and you're gonna loop it around your finger. And this is gonna create this little X situation at the top. And you're gonna slide your finger out of that X, so you should have something that looks like this. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this string here, and this string is connected to our ball of yarn. And what that is called our working yarn. So with your working yarn, you're gonna take it and you're gonna place it underneath that loop we just made. So you see it makes like this pretzel shape when we take that and we place it under. So let's do that again. So tail end, wrap it around your finger, pull your finger through, left with the loop, working yarn goes under. All right, so with that, the next step, we're gonna take that working yarn that we see right here. So in this loop, we see our working yarn poking through. We're gonna actually go through the loop and pull it up. And then we're gonna pull these two strings together, and that's gonna be our slip knot. You're gonna just tighten it on the hook, but making sure that you have enough room to slide it back and forth so your tension isn't too tight. What I like to do is I hold the hook with these 3 fingers, and I take these 2 working fingers to hold the tail down. And that's gonna give me some even tension and make sure that my work doesn't look all wonky or that it doesn't curl. So we're gonna take this working yarn, we're gonna flip our hook up so that we can work with it. You're gonna wrap the yarn over the hook like this. So you should have something that looks like this. Let me get it to focus, where your yarn is wrapping around the hook. And what you're gonna do is now you're going to take your working yarn hand and hold the tail end. And you're gonna take your hook, watch the hook. You're going to turn the hook and pull it through that loop that you have on the hook. And that's gonna be our first chain. We always start with chains in this form of crochet to get our project started. And our chain determines how long or how wide our garment or our piece is going to be. So I'm gonna show you again. We're gonna wrap the yarn around the hook. Then we're gonna switch hands to hold that tail end so we can work with this hand. And then we're going to move the hook, pull it through. And that's gonna pull up a loop. And then you're going to continue to wrap it, switch, turn, pull. Let's do it again. Wrap it, switch, turn, and pull. Wrap it, switch, turn, and pull. And you see it's gonna make this beautiful chain with beautiful tension. And I want you guys to pause it here and get a little practice on not only your chain, but your slip knot as well. Take a moment to master these and then come back so you can learn the next step. All right, so I have 10 chains here. And next thing we're gonna teach you is how to make a turning chain. And you've already basically learned it. It's just making an extra chain so that we can turn our work and begin to work on top of the chain and start to build up our project. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap, switch, turn, and pull through. And now we have our turning chain. so we can turn our work and begin working into the chains themselves. So this is a good point to have a little bit of a learning lesson. So when you look at your chain, it has this kind of braided cord effect, and that's going to really help you with counting your chains and counting your stitches. So if you look really closely, you'll see like these V shapes that are happening throughout the chain, and each one of these V shapes are going to be counted as a chain. So if we count, we want to use the top of the V shapes to count. So these loops that are sitting up here at the top are what we're going to use to count our chains to make sure that we have 11 chains. So we're going to count right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this one right here is 11. We're going to skip this 11th chain when we start to work up our first row, and we're going to go into that chain that's right next to it. And let's go ahead and do that right now. So you're going to grab your work, grab your hook as we've been talking, and grab your chain so your tension is great. Then you're going to turn it so now your chain is in your opposite hand of your working hand. And it's having trouble focusing because of this rug back here. But like I said, we're going to skip this first little loop that's right here, and we're going to go into this next loop that is right here. So we're skipping that one, going into that one. And what you're going to do is you're going to pop your hook into that chain like so, and that's going to cause this faux loop on your hook. And what we want to do for a single crochet, we want to do that wrap over pull through technique that we just learned for our chain to pull up a loop. So we're going to hold our work, wrap over our yarn, hold the chain, and with our working hand, we're going to pull up just one single loop like so. And now you can see we have 2 loops on the hook. And to complete our single crochet, we're going to do that wraparound technique once more, and we're going to pull through both of these loops now. And it's going to look like this. So we wrap as we hold our work to keep the tension. We're going to turn the hook, pull through the first loop, pull through the second loop. And there you go. There's our first single crochet. And you can see right here, that's that chain that we skipped that helped us turn. That chain is also going to help us with our straight edges. So let's try that single crochet again. So we're going to go into that next chain. And remember, I told you we're going to work in the top of these braided chains. So we're working into each one of these top stitches. So let's work up another single crochet. Let's do a couple more together. So we're going to insert into that next space with our faux loop. And we're going to take that technique of wrapping our yarn around the hook, pulling our yarn through to make a new loop, and then we're going to wrap once more and pull through both. Now look at that. We have 2 single crochets. Let's try one more time. So inserting our hook, pulling up a loop, wrapping our yarn, and pulling through both loops. Now I want you guys to pay attention as I do the next few single crochets, what my hands are doing as I'm maneuvering stitch to stitch, wrapping my yarn around and pulling through the loop. Watch what my hands are doing because this is very essential and keeping that tension consistent throughout your work. So let's go ahead. So I can explain that a little bit more. So as I work this next single crochet, I'm going to explain to you guys how I'm moving my hands so that you guys can get it. I don't think that there's many crochet artists who really talk about what your hands are supposed to be doing rather than just explaining the technique of crochet. So I'm going to do that here with you guys. So this is going to be my working hand, and this is going to be my support hand. That's what we're going to call it for this video. So with my working hand, I like to hold my work and my hook at the same time so we don't have too much movement. And I'm able to manipulate or work with my working yarn in my supporting hand much easier. And so what I do is I take that chain And I now release my work, grab my hook, and I hold onto this because you notice there's movement still. I take my hook, hold onto that loop on the hook, and I insert the hook. Notice that I'm still holding on to that chain, and as I'm holding on with my working hand. And then I'm going to take my working hand, hold onto this because we still have that movement, and we're going to let go of that chain and wrap with our support hand. With our support hand, we're going to hold onto that chain again, and then we're going to use our working hand to pull that yarn through and bring up a loop. So we're going to alternate and hold that yarn with our working hand. With our support hand and working yarn, we're going to wrap one more time, grab onto the work again. We're going to release the working hand from holding the yarn, and we're going to pull through, making sure you have a nice grip with your support hand. And then typically if it's too loose, you can go ahead and tighten it as you go. So watch my hands. Insert, pull up a loop, wrap around, pull through both loops. Watching my hands? So we're gonna insert, pull up a loop, wrap around, pull through both. Insert our hook, wrap around, wrap around here, and pull through both loops. Insert our hook, bring up our working yarn for a loop, wrap around our yarn, pull through both loops. Let's do it one more time. Insert your hook, wrap around the working yarn, pull up one loop, wrap around the yarn again, and pull through both loops. So when you get to the end of the row like this, we're going to utilize that turning chain so that we can have that straight edge and we can prevent ourselves from curling. So with a single crochet, we always want to chain up one. And that's just that chain that we learned in the beginning. And if you look at your work here, these little braided, twisty, donut looking line right here, this is going to be that foundation chain that we worked up, and this row right here is going to be our single crochets. So something I want to get into before we start our next row is how to count your stitches, which is so important if you want to keep your work even as you go. So if you look here, we see that braided effect that we saw in the beginning with our chain. So in the beginning with our chain, we saw these V's. This V is here, this V is here, this V is here, this V is here, this V is here. And we should have 10 V's. So we're going to count them. 1V, 2V, 3V, 4V, 5V, 6V, 7V, 8V, 9V, and 10V. And it's important, like, throughout your process that you continue to check in with how many stitches, because you can end up with work that increases or work that decreases if you don't keep up with your stitch count. So let's work up the next row. Let's insert our hook into that chain one turning chain, and now you're going to flip your work. And now to work up on our single crochets, you're gonna see, let me get it to focus again, these little holes that are in your work, and that's what we're going to work in. So we're going to skip this chain one, so you'll see an extra V up here, and if you work into that extra V up here, that is what's going to increase your work. So you want to skip that little V right here and go into that first hole that you see right here, and you're going to do that same technique of wrapping over, pulling through, wrapping over, pulling through. Going in, insert your hook, wrapping over, pulling through, wrapping over, and pulling through. And we're going to continue that all the way to the end. Pause right here and I'll meet you guys at the end. Okay, so we reached the very last stitch, and you'll notice like this little curve situation happening. You want to work in that stitch, because if you don't work in that stitch, you have now lost a stitch and you will begin decreasing. So to keep your work even, you want to insert your hook as we have been for the entire round or the row. You're going to wrap around, pull up a loop, wrap around, pull through both loops. And now to work up the next row, we're going to do it just as we did for the second row. We're going to chain one for our turning chain, flip our work, skip the chain, and go right into that very first single crochet. So I'm going to work up a few rows, pause right here, work up 5 rows, and meet me there. So after those 5 rows, this is what your work should be looking like. You'll notice that you have those nice clean edges, really great tension, and I advise you to watch this video all the way through before attempting to work up your 5 rows like this, just so that you can get comfortable with holding your hook, making a chain, completing a single crochet, and your turning chain. So go ahead and practice this as much as you can. Rewind the video. This video is time-stamped, so you can go back to the places that you need and reference them as much as you need. We are going to be using this stitch in our next project, so practice, practice, practice. That was the end of our video. I hope it was super informative. The intent is for you to come out of this a master of beginner's crochet, or at least a master of single crochet. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below, and I will get to every comment. If needed, I will go ahead and make an additional video addressing all of you guys' questions, so that before we move on, you are fully confident before we start making our garments and getting into the more intricate projects. Also, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so that I can keep bringing you guys content like this. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media. They will be posted in the description. Happy crocheting to all of you guys, and I will see you in the next video.